Hi everyone, Kathy here from Kathy Bart's TV. A little bit of a different video today. This is about me and my health. I have noticed lots of videos on YouTube regarding a condition that I have called Ankylosing Spondylitis. Very weird name. I'd never heard of it when I was diagnosed. But I just wanted to give my experience quickly. I, like many others, tried to find out what was wrong with me for many years. I was involved in a major car accident in 1993, was put in a surgical collar as I had very bad whiplash, and I had a twisted pelvis and I was in a lot of pain. I basically got shunted from behind at a really high speed. After the injury should have cleared up, I was left with horrific pain in my lumbar area, and my neck was getting tighter and tighter and tighter. I went to the doctors many times. I went to see chiropractors. I went to see physiotherapists a lot, and no one could tell me why I was becoming stiffer and stiffer and stiffer, and I could barely turn my neck. This went on, believe it or believe it not, until 2004, when I went in desperation to see a physiotherapist because my neck had completely seized and I was in agony. He took one look at me and said, "I believe you have something called ankylosing spondylitis. You need to go to the doctor for a blood test. Don't Google it." So what was the first thing I did? I Googled it, and when I saw the symptoms, it could have been me they were writing about, and I knew before any blood tests or anything that's what I had. So I went for the blood test. It came back positive for the HLB gene. Sorry, I'm obviously not reading from a script here, I'm just saying it from memory. And I was formally diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis. They believe that it was either working on me in my teens, but because I was a dancer and I used to dance all the time, I was very active, rushing from here to there, that I hadn't really felt it, or the inflammation hadn't had time to do any damage because I was mobile. Because a lot of the time, if you can keep mobile, you can restrict the amount of damage. But the car crash had stopped me in my tracks, and it allowed the ankylosing to do its thing, or my ankylosing was awoken after the crash. I'll never know. But it took me 11 years to find out what was wrong with me. So by the time I was diagnosed, a lot of the damage had already been done. And I will show you what I mean by damage. In turning my neck, I can turn it that far. The other side is worse, like that. It literally will not turn. So it turns out that my neck is virtually fused, and the base of my spine, the lumbar area, that is completely fused. I can actually bend forward, but I cannot go down side to side. So I was in the advanced stages of it. They started talking about steroids and everything. And I was like, look, I'm not at the beginning here. I know I'm beginning of my diagnosis, but after what I've read, I believe the disease has really advanced. So they put me on an injection, which was like anti-TNF. It was a gene blocker called Humira, and I was on that for a few years, and then that became ineffective, and now I take a biological agent called Cosentex, which I hope helps with symptoms. It's basically an immune system suppressor. The downside is, and obviously like most drugs, there are side effects, is that I'm at risk of cancer. So anyway, so that was my diagnosis journey. And my journey from there on has not been a pleasant one. The days when I cannot get out of bed because of the fatigue, which is horrific. It's like wearing a diving bell suit, you know, one of the old-fashioned ones. I just feel so stiff, so tired. I've got no enthusiasm to do anything. And then the other days you get the blissful combination of fatigue and the pain. And the pain is deep throbbing pain. I've also been diagnosed with osteoarthritis, psoriatic arthritis, degenerative spine disease, and it looks like my ankylosing has got into my ear canals because the soft cartilage in there, I've got hearing loss, which isn't in line with my age. Compared to other people of my age, my hearing is dreadful and there's no reason for it. So I've looked at ankylosing and it can get in your ears, so it has to be that. I've also been diagnosed with an ascending aortic heart aneurysm, which could or could not be the ankylosing. We're not sure, but it basically means that the wall of my aortic artery is weakened and could burst under pressure. So all in all, I'm pretty screwed really, but I try and stay positive because I have a roof over my head, I've got food in my belly, and I am getting treatment and help, although unfortunately it's a bit late to help me not become disabled from it because it's too late. The damage was already done in those years when I was spinning around trying to find a diagnosis. So but I just get up every day, I work through the stiffness in the morning and the pain. I take my medication, which includes lots of antidepressants. I've had quite a crap life overall, but apparently we're never given more than we can deal with. Well, that's enough, thank you. I've got enough to deal with. And this is not woe is me, poor me, because I don't feel sorry for myself. It's just a fact. I've had lots of loss in my life of major people, like my dad at an early age. I lost my mum in 2008. I'm an only child. So, and then just other things, you know, like my son being diagnosed as autistic, my daughter having severe depression after COVID because that was her college years, and it's a lot to deal with. Oh, and I forgot, sorry, my husband has got progressive MS, diabetes. So as a family, it's crazy what we're dealing with, but I do try and stay positive. I try to think of what I have got and not what I haven't. You know, I must admit, when I look at myself in the mirror and I see that my spine is completely straight where it's been fused and I have a hunchback coming, that can be really disheartening because obviously that's my posture. So when you look at me, the arch in my back is completely gone at the base and I have a humpback coming here, but I have to try and fight against it, although I can feel the ankylosing trying to do its worse. So it is a horrible thing, and I'm sorry to anyone who's been diagnosed with it. I know that the bad days where you can't get out of bed and the pain is just unbearable, they are awful, and on other days you can get up and do things, but it's always with an effort. Nothing comes easy with ankylosing. Everything has to be pushed. I have to push myself to do things. There's also the depression that sometimes you get those thoughts, what if I didn't wake up? And that's not me being suicidal, that's just the fact that sometimes you wonder, now my kids are grown up and all that, what is my purpose in life? But to have this horrible disease, I mean, that sounds terrible, but of course I want to wake up, but I would like to wake up without pain and stiffness and fatigue. So that's my little moan over. I can't walk too far, unfortunately. Oh, that's another thing. My ribs are fused. It's got my rib cage too, which means that I can't take deep breaths because my rib cage doesn't move. Forgot about that bit of joy as well. So I look wider than I am because it's fused in and out position. So the dangers of what they call bamboo spine, which is what my spine is that you are 90% more likely to fracture your back if you have a minor fall. So I had this in 2015. I was involved in another car accident. It was a minor shunt. Someone went into the back of me when I was driving and my spine cracked in a stabilised fracture. Now, the force that I was hit, you would never think that I would get a fractured spine, but I did. And that woke me up to the fact that I'm fragile. Oh, sorry, I've also got osteoporosis. That's another lovely condition. And when I was just walking one day, I broke the 3rd, 4th and 5th metatarsal in my feet. So all in all, I'm quite fragile. I do have a disabled badge holder because I can't walk very far without pain, sorry. I mean, I try and do as much as I can. Someone looking at me may think, oh, she's okay. And that's because I try to be, as I said, happy, positive, put on a show. Hi, I'm Kathy. Nice to meet you. Isn't everything wonderful? But no one knows what goes on behind closed doors. But I just wanted to say, if you have been newly diagnosed or you are suffering any of the symptoms that I've described, I send you a lot of healing vibes, and you take care of yourself because you are important. And just because they can't see what's going on doesn't mean that you're not suffering. So I hope that helps. Any questions, I'll be happy to ask. I'm sure I probably left out loads of things because I kept saying, oh yeah, I forgot this, but I didn't want to ramble on for much, for too long. But this is Kathy Bartlett, and I have ankylosing spondylitis.